So this session is building the international platform cooperative movement. We're going to start with an introduction to the platform cooperativism consortium from Trebor. Then we'll have a presentation from Nicole Alix, who is the president of Coop de Communs. Sebastien Romero from Vientos, who are a solidarity economy platform co-op based in Mexico. And then we've got presentations from Elena Comer and Andrea Rapisardi from LAMA, who are a cooperative development agency in Italy. So with no further ado, I'll hand over to Trebor. Thanks very much.
Okay. So, hi. I actually right. So what we're going to do is we're going to do it like this. Okay. So I really can't talk. It's really terrible. So many times the question was raised, right, like is there a hub or some place where people can go? And there are several places, but Platform Co-op leads you to all of them. Platform.coop. So in 2015, together with Nathan, I organized this event at the New School. Many of you were there. So this is sort of more as a question like how can we follow up, right? And how can we come together around these ideas? So here are some social media sort of anchors where you can go. And of course you can read the books, right? So you read the tweet, now you can read the book. And then based on the needs of the community that came out of these events and the talks and the writing, basically all these, I got emails pretty much every day from people from Argentina, from Germany, France, from Australia, from Los Angeles, asking for help. How can you help us create platform co-ops? And of course, I was completely, this is beyond what I could actually personally accommodate. So this is why we created this consortium. So legal questions, what is it like to open a co-op in Germany? What do you need? What is it like to do that in France? What is it like to do that in Australia? So, and this is why we founded this consortium. So platformcoop.newschool.edu. And so we started by having all the people in the network create a working document, see what they want to work on, and out of that we boiled it down to a few points. So these 10 areas, which are of course very, very broad, right? So this is like stuff to work on for, 10 years. And so these are the contributors so far. So this is like a huge list. Many universities, cooperatives, individuals, policymakers. It's a large group. Unions as well. Art institutions, many different groups. So, and here you have like they're actual real people. It's not just a list. And so out of this, if you want to help us and you want to get involved, then you can email us and become part, and we can see how we can loop you into these activities. And so, but to boil it down for just 2017, we are starting with MOOC. So obviously a critique of the MOOC format, right? Not just blindly taking over that format, but a reflective, massively open online course on the cooperative platform economy, hopefully engaging thousands of people with this material that we're talking about here. And so a second project for 2017 is creating legal templates. So we have a meeting in March at Harvard with co-op lawyers to basically have sort of click-through contracts where you can create a co-op really quickly online. And the third project is basically connecting people within the ecosystem through stories and events. And the last one is for 2017, November 9th to 10th, at the New School the next conference on platform cooperativism, focusing on artificial intelligence, journalism, platform co-ops, the refugee crisis, farming co-ops in the Global South, and the cooperative cloud. So lastly, you can find us on Lumio, of course, also on this other network that you may have heard about. Let's see. And if you have a burning question, it's really great. I really can't answer it, as you can see, so you can email me. Okay. So, good. This is it.
So, next. Yeah, thank you. I'm too small, you know, I have to. Hello to all of you. I'm very, very glad to be here and to share. Thank you, Trebor, for all you are doing. First of all, I have to apologize for my English, not very good enough to explain everything, but I will do my best. I just want to explain why I'm here and the kind of process we are trying to promote through a little organization we created in France, La Coop des Communs, to bring together people from social and solidarity economies. This means also mutual societies, non-profit organization, sometimes foundation, and the world of the commons to create a favorable ecosystem to promote commons. And of course, to promote commons, which sometimes are embodied in cooperatives, in mutual societies, in non-profit organizations, and whatever. So why I'm here? I'm here because we organized a workshop in the Cooperative Summit, Trebor, in last autumn. Trebor had been invited, and Nathan Snyder also. And I met at Mayo, who told me, oh, you should meet Joseph. So I met Joseph on Skype, and we discovered that there were conferences like yours, not the same one, but, you know, equivalent, everywhere in the world. Of course, the ones Trebor and Platform Cooperativism promotes, but also conferences in Berlin, in London, we knew, in Toronto, and whatever. And at the same time, we had, so I met at Mayo from the Cooperative UK and the International Labour Organization, which was interested to, because the future of labor is for them very, very, very important. And why are we all participating in this kind of conferences? Because we are all doing very important things, sometimes marvelous things, all over the world, in our countries, but we are all fragmented. And the real question is how we can connect together, and why do we need to connect together? Not only because it's a help to scale up, but it is also a need for us to be in the hope of something, you know, promoting a sort of concrete utopia. We need this concrete utopia to go on, because the world is more or less hostile, and this is how we can also use this type of conference to promote our network. We need hope and humanity. So, what did we do? We brought together different organizations. Our small La Coop des Communs, French one, up into the world, Confrontation Europe, SMART, which is an organization working on social protection of freelancers, Coop, an organization for workers' cooperative in the EU, and member of CICOPA. It's the umbrella organization for workers cooperative everywhere in the world. Peer-to-Peer Foundation, thank you. We share, and within the European and Social Committee. To do what? To do what? To spread, to shed light on the future for public decision, because some of us used to work with institutions. I don't want to, underline too much a question of policy and policymakers, but it's also important. So, for instance, the European Commission elaborate communications on sharing economy, on the future of work, and they do not know what's going on in, all your experiences. They don't know. So we wanted to show diverse experienced, diverse models of more collective, more common-based solutions for sharing economies. This is why, as you may have seen, the name of our conference was Towards a Fair Sharing Economy, in order for people to understand what we're going, what we're talking about, the role and place of cooperative platform. And of course, we wanted also to start from concrete example of platform cooperatives, in order to see with them how they can find solutions to their different kinds of issues. So we show concrete examples of platform cooperatives. We in Spiral, we explain Spiral. We explain forms of local currencies, of cooperative supermarkets, of an example of a cooperative streaming platform, SMART, as social protection innovation, and also cooperative platforms between enterprises on the system of barter, like it exists in the United States. And we asked either experts, lawyers, economists, academics, to react to this presentation of these experiences. And we also asked to institutions to express their view, to identify the question, which were arising, and the way they could be interested, and the way they could help to promote this kind of experience. And we had the European Commission, and I just want to explain to you that within the institutions themselves, we can have diversified position. There are people within the institution who want to change the institution. And for instance, within the European Commission, we had two parts. We had the men representing the GROW direction. We said, well, the European Commission is very favorable to all these new platforms. The European Commission has nothing to say about that. This is the role of the member states if they want to understand. And there was another man within another direction who said, well, the technology is not neutral, so we could use the technology to promote different kinds of fair internet for people. So what we try to do is to connect this kind of persons. So what happened during this day? It happened that, first of all, the question of the diversity of forms of entrepreneurship has been underlined. And it was very important because sometimes we forget that social dialogue is, of course, it's very important to have trade unions, but it's also important to have a sort of range of way to manage the enterprises. So it was important to hear from that. We identify also a range of questions on regulation, because this regulation is an element of competition policy, And we have not to be too naive. This regulation is favorable to certain models, and it creates barriers to others. And I just quote 3 levels of question we addressed. The question of ownership of data. Maybe data are the next, oil question. This is a new goal. And the question of products and the services which can be sold on the market. So how can people have wages from this question? And of course the question of social rights and the remuneration of workers. And I didn't quote it, but just in one word, we also raised the question on investments and alliances. So what next? Not to be too long. What next? Maybe something sort of miracle like you created, Trebor, happened during this conference, because not only the organizers for the conference, but also some people who were involved in the participation decided to think about the creation of a permanent working group in Europe, bringing together academics, practitioners, bringing together, I can say, 4 kinds of worlds. The world of cooperative and larger social and solidarity economy, the world of the commons, the world of trade unions, and the words of the cities, because the cities, for instance, Barcelona was there, are very interested. They are trying to promote new models, and they need alliances also. So it's very important, because maybe, I think someone told us this, I forgot this morning, maybe the new powers are within the city. Maybe the states, are getting a little more weak, and they are challenged by this big, how did Michel Bowen say, netarchic capitalist. So it's very important. So we decided to stick together, to keep together. We met the day before yesterday. So you see, it's just an ongoing process. It's not a closed process, but we have also to find our means. We want to talk about the definition of needs, bylaws, help the practitioner on the legal status, the right of workers and whatever. The question of integration of a common interest within the platform. Yesterday we had a session, we talked about that with Taco Troncoso from Peer-to-Peer Foundation, the question of multi-stakeholders cooperative platform. And, of course, if possible, coalition. So, conclusion. I think we really need a whole range of people. We need persons like Trebor, because you have designed it. Yeah, you have designed the concept. And I remember, when I heard 1 year, maybe a little more, somewhere in the United States, people were promoting this idea of fair internet. Afterwards, I understood that fair internet, platform cooperativism. Afterwards, we heard about open cooperativism. It's very powerful because you pave the way. But afterwards, people like Sebastian, like you organize the way to go on, and we also need people like Joseph, like me, who establish the connection also within the institutions, because within the institutions there are some subversive people who just want to use the position to transform the world. And this is what I wanted to share with you. We absolutely need to promote diversity. My experience is that, all this word management and so on promote a sort of average solution for average people. Average people doesn't exist. So if we don't promote diversity, if someone is wrong, all the person are wrong. So we absolutely diversity, and we also need to entertain trust and hope. And we certainly will contribute if you. I still have to intervene, and we still have to intervene within the platform cooperativism. We certainly will contribute to all sorts of initiatives. Will helps to promote diversity, trust, and hope.
Hello. Thank you, Joseph, for the invitation. My name is Sebastien Romero. I'm going to be talking about the platform Coop we started in Mexico City 2 years ago, and about how we're collaborating with the Internet of Ownership and with Trebor to apply our software to the platform Coop ecosystem. I'm also working with several people in here on a platform Coop toolkit. I'm not going to talk about it now, but we should talk about it later if you're interested. And Vientos. Vientos is an open source platform Coop. We're 13 people in Mexico City, and we are the only Latin American platform Coop in the platform Coop directory of 160 platform Coops. Vientos is Spanish for wind, which for us is very similar to the prospect of collaboration. You know, it's always here, we all share it, yet we're not very aware of how to collaborate. The possibilities are always like lurking in the corner, in the shadows, and that's the problem we're trying to solve with a platform Coop. I think we all agree that collaboration is a must, that we have to unite in order to do something, but the problem is that we don't know how to collaborate. We don't know who to collaborate with, where, when, how, why. Like in this conference, there's so many amazing projects. I don't know how to help them. You know, we don't know how to organize this collaboration process. There's no manual, no rules, no platform, and our value proposition is to make a platform exactly for this. So we are learning from natural ecosystems like ants, bees, mycorrhizal associations underground with the mycelium of mushrooms, share information, nutrients, etc. And we want to make this very simple. The main purpose has been how to simplify all these theories to actually put them in practice. And I'm going to show you a platform in a minute. But it's a very simple platform because we think that if we are not able to simplify collaboration, we're not going to be able to actually do it. So it's a purpose of finding a common language. Right now we're using English, and I smile if I'm happy and everybody understands, and we don't have that for collaboration. There's not like common language. And it's not only with collaboration, it's also with data, open link data. It's the same with the open app ecosystem. And these things are difficult. Like, we are lucky because a programmer in Vientos actually works with Solid, which is a project from the MIT and the Qatar Institute of Research for making decentralized applications, but it's not simple. And we have to be able to simplify in order for it to make it accessible, that different generations can engage in collaboration, that different types of people with different types of purposes and resources and ideas can all find like this common ground. And yeah, so the key elements that we've analyzed in order to facilitate collaboration are location, where projects are, what type of resources do they use, skills, interests, and basically how do they want to collaborate, like the willingness, what do they think they can offer, what do they need, and hence we try to make, we made a progressive web app, which is a website that actually behaves like an app. It's the latest trend in Google, They work offline. They're super fast because they have a pre-cached content. They're beautiful. Anybody that has used one, you can tell that the experience is immersive. The user experience is super friendly. They're very fast. They work offline. Talking about accessibility. And yeah, maybe I'm just going to show it. So this is the, can you turn on? Is it turned on? Okay. This is a map we first did in Mexico. It's not comprehensive, but it's just to give you an idea. And you can see projects by what they work in: human rights, products and services, environment, arts and culture, gender, etc., basically everything. And also by how you want to collaborate. You know, maybe you want to share some tools, some materials, knowledges, activities, events, volunteering, spaces, art, etc. You might want to just not see them on a map, just see them like this. And you can see very straightforwardly how they want to collaborate. You know, what are the offers? What are the requests? And we did the same for the directory of platform co-ops that Nathan and Devin made. It's 160 platform co-ops that we mapped around the world. So if you actually want to collaborate with one of them, you can just see which one is close to you. You can see what are they working in, the blockchain, transportation, data, crowdfunding, everything. And yeah, just see a list of the projects. So many good initiatives. And I make a little profile for Fermondo UK, just to give you an example of what they could be offering or requesting, no? Like they want to share the bylaws, the workshop on designing marketplaces, knowledge on creating a platform co-op. They might request a consultancy or co-op law, web designer for new interface, etc. The platform is quite simple right now, and that's on purpose, because if this doesn't work, we're not going to be able to do more. You know, we have a lot of ideas, and what we can do on top of this, like mapping the transaction, the flow of resources, being able to analyze the patterns of how things are exchanged in society, being able to do data mining and all the big data that we can see and how projects collaborate. Just realize how things flow and what's this collective intelligence that should ultimately be used for collective action. You know, like collective action won't really be feasible if we don't base it on collective intelligence. And for that, we need to know how can we collaborate and what we can actually do together, not just like talk about it all the time and then like, that's a project, it's a work in progress, but that's why I'm here. Thank you very much.
Good afternoon. My name is Elena Comer. I'm speaking on behalf of an Italian cooperative called LAMA. We are a consulting company that carries out research and supports with practical consultancy cooperatives and also other actors, private for-profit, not-for-profit companies, and also public bodies in introducing innovations. Last year, we had a collaboration with Cooperatives Europe, which is the umbrella organization of 33 national-level cooperative associations across different countries. And together with them, we decided to carry out an exploratory study to understand how much, to what extent, and how existing cooperatives in Europe are approaching collaborative models, collaborative digital tools. And so basically we approach the topic that we're discussing here, the topic of platform cooperatives, starting from the existing cooperative movement, because the cooperative movement in Europe counts already around 180,000 cooperatives, with 140,000 million members of cooperatives in Europe. So we thought it would be interesting to know what they think about this that we're discussing now. So not just looking at the small little examples that are doing something new, but also see the topic from the perspective of the existing cooperative movement. So I apologize if this is the presentation of research, so it will be like slides in the most traditional sense. I'll try and be as short as possible. So basically the objective of our research, as I said, was to discuss the challenges and the opportunities brought about by the collaborative economy, collaborative models to the European cooperative movement. We moved around 3 research questions. What is the level of awareness and interest of cooperatives in the new collaborative models? What are the actual cases of experimentations that cooperatives are doing to implement collaborative models? And what are the barriers and opportunities in applying collaborative models to cooperatives? As I said, this is an exploratory study, and I already said this. It's about seeing how cooperatives see this topic. We did this, as I said, in collaboration between LAMA and Cooperatives Europe, but we also had the participation of cooperative associations across Europe. We involved 10 from 8 different countries. These are all kind of associations bringing together cooperatives at national level, so they're membership associations of cooperatives. And basically we involved them because we interviewed directors, presidents to understand their point of view about the topic in representation of the cooperatives that they bring together. And also through this channel we could disseminate a survey to map existing collaborative economy experimentations among cooperatives. This is not an attempt to have full mapping of the initiatives. Also, we are aware of other mappings and the directory of the Internet of Ownership and so on, but what we wanted to do is focus on the European level and see what we could collect through these networks. So just to give like a couple of elements from the results that we had, especially from the interviews with the cooperative associations, the first main finding, it sounds obvious, but maybe we forget about that, is the fact that the situation of the relationship between cooperatives and collaborative models really changes a lot depending on the country and the context, because cooperative movements are different in each different country. There are countries such as France or Italy or the UK that have a long tradition with cooperatives and that are facing challenges, which are the ones that then bring you to innovation that are of a certain type, like maybe mature markets, needing to renovate the way they involve and bring participation of members and so on. While there are other countries such as Poland or the Czech Republic where the cooperative movement is very young and their main concern is to kind of get people appreciate cooperatives and get people create cooperatives. So they're kind of at the different stage. Another thing is that generally, irrespective of the different contexts, we found a positive attitude of the cooperative associations towards this topic. So with some differences, of course, also depending on the country. In some countries where cooperatives fear more the competition from international platforms, there's a sort of kind of temptation to think that collaborative economy means Uber or means Airbnb, and so there's a sort of fear. In some other countries, there's a better understanding of what collaborative platforms can be, also of different types and different aims and more open and democratic, so there's a lot more interest, but in general, an interest from the associations. What they're interested in is the opportunities of the digital technologies and the digital kind of tools, because cooperatives not always are at the best of digital innovation, if I may say that, in relation at least to largest or most historical cooperatives, but not newer ones, that of course are born under a new logic, so more digital from birth. They are interested in the new forms of sharing and collaboration that collaborative models can bring, that are different from the ways that cooperatives have always worked. For example, the online participation is something new, and the new forms of participation, because especially large cooperatives need to find new ways of engaging their members and get them to participate. Former communist countries are emphasizing a lot the opportunity for cultural change, because they tend to be countries where there's a lot of kind of reaction against the forced kind of collaboration that I had during the communist period. So there's this kind of fear and social distrust and more individualism. So the associations of cooperatives think that cooperative platforms could be a way to kind of get people to appreciate collaboration in a new and different way. These associations are playing a role. They are trying to promote platform cooperatives and collaboration through digital tools, and they are doing it in different ways. There are some associations that are promoting work groups at national level, some others that are working on awareness raising among their cooperative members. Some are providing the spaces, co-working spaces or incubators for platform cooperatives, or managing startup programs to promote this type of cooperatives. And this was what we basically raised from the interviews. From the mapping, as I said, we distributed this online survey, and we kind of screened 38 cases. Well, we collected more, but we applied some criteria. They had to be properly legally formed cooperatives and so on. So we kind of reached this number of cooperatives that kind of met the criteria in 2 months. So I guess that if continued, this could find many more. These were from 11 EU countries and some initiatives that were international. And they show how cooperatives can use collaborative models in very different ways. Doesn't mean always the same thing. It doesn't mean kind of matchmaking of demand and supply of something. It can mean many, many different ways of applying this. And it depends also on the sector, of course, and the type of cooperative. Well, about these cases, I mean, 80% of the mapped cases are kind of really relying on digital technologies and as an enabling kind of factor for, they are based on technology. But only 60%, and not a small number, of course, are proper peer-to-peer platforms in the sense that they disintermediate the relationship between peers and provide a platform for collaboration. In other cases, they do use technologies, but they don't disintermediate the relationship between people. That means that, for example, I can just give an example, like a cooperative that works in the area of refugees support. They are not disintermediating the relationship between local community and refugees, but they are promoting a model in which families can host refugees in their house, but the cooperative is still there providing legal support, psychological support, and so on. So they are not disappearing and not saying you collaborate between peers. They provide a technology to get people to collaborate, but they are still present and they don't disappear. And I think this is very important in many sectors. Some cooperatives are using kind of tools such as Lumio and others for improving governance and broadening participation of their members. Some platforms, on the other hand, are enabling B2B collaboration between cooperatives or even just exchange of goods, barter, and so on. Some are not digital at all, so cooperatives that are promoting a co-working space or some other forms of exchange of resources and so on. Some things that I found interesting is the fact that most of the cases that we mapped are startups. So in very few cases, it's established cooperatives of a certain size that experiment a sort of transformation. It's very difficult for them to do that. So it's much easier to find startups, cooperatives that have this type of features. Many of them, and I think this is also an interesting feature, they promote platforms for collaboration that are open to everyone, not just to their members. And this kind of goes in contrast with the idea that a platform cooperative is a platform where everybody that uses the service is also a member and an owner. From the point of view of cooperatives, the important thing is that the platform is run by a cooperative, then everybody can use it, doesn't matter they are a member, and this is, can have implications, of course. So it's also broadening the idea of mutualism that is at the basis of cooperatives. Most of them are small scale. 40% of the initiatives that we mapped have involved fewer than 100 people, and it's really, really, really small. In some other cases, more 1,000, 2,000, but very, very exceptional cases. And this also is reflecting the fact that sometimes they are local experiences, but compared to generally the model of the cooperative that is very localized and attached to a territory, these platforms tend to be more oriented towards a national or international kind of outlook. This information was available only for the cooperatives that responded to our mapping. In some other cases, we also included cooperatives found in other sources, so we wouldn't have that information. So in terms of opportunities and challenges, in general, what we found is that cooperatives can benefit from collaborative economy innovations, and this means for them the possibility to upgrade and transform their models to fit the different contexts that they are moving in now, social, economic, and so on. And this also means that they can offer and provide an alternative to the corporate sharing economy. And this is also very important, even if sometimes it's not even their main priority. Their priority is to just upgrade their model to work better. But we know that at a system level, it can be interesting. At the same time, it's very difficult. As I said, established cooperatives find it very difficult to evolve and change. And if we look at startups, there are the usual barriers that startup cooperatives encounter, so the difficulty in attracting equity capital because they're not like a profitable type of company to be then sold by their investors. The challenges of scaling up and then competing with larger cooperatives. How can a platform, larger platforms, so how can a cooperative car sharing company expect to compete with a large multinational doing the same? It's very, very difficult. And also kind of implementing these new collaborative and digital models without changing completely their nature and without becoming something completely different, but preserving the distinctive features that have made cooperatives so strong in our countries, and also how to change the social relations and participations, because many times cooperatives are very rooted in local territories, but if they move online, how can they keep that contact with people? So just to conclude, I mean, there is an interest in the cooperative movement in playing a role. Also, the associations want to play a role and lead this kind of transition. There's a large potential because there are many cooperatives in Europe, so like a large kind of pool of experiences and history. And there are many ways of applying collaborative principles to cooperatives. This was an exploratory study, so I really think there's a lot of need for more research, better understanding this, so we don't only talk about new cases, but also see how we can valorize the experience and the potential of existing cooperatives, and also see the impact that this transition can have. Thank you.
Good luck.
And I am Andrea Rapisardi. I'm from LAMA, and thank you very much for the invitation. And today I just would like to share with you my point of view as a member of a cooperative. I'm a consultant, and then I hope that my point of view is interesting for you. I think a lot of cooperative enterprises, for sure in Italy, has more than 70 years of history. So they created economic and social share value. They still guaranteed jobs for their members. They generated and collected asset and capital to pass down to new generations. They created a big and relevant collaboration network and partnerships. They had a leading role in developing our economies and communities. But at the same time, in the last 100 years, the world is completely changed, and we had 3 of the 4 different industrial revolutions. The fourth one, called Industry 4.0, started about 10 years ago, and it's based on Internet of Things, sharing economy, big data, digital fabrication, nanotechnology, artificial intelligence, robotics, and so on. And it's the end of the pyramidal hierarchies and the beginning of the horizontal networks. So the working group on collaborative economy of Cooperatives Europe underlines that the collaborative economy booming across the European continent creates economic and social opportunities, such as innovative ways to connect people and creating solidarity and social interaction, increased economic efficiency and higher potential of innovation. However, the rise of a collaborative economy also stems a set of risks, including fostering inequalities through dismantlement of social benefits and rights of mostly independent workers, and higher concentration of wealth with poor redistribution of created value, and threatening privacy and democracy through a private and uncontrolled ownership of big data, and destabilizing established economic models through an over-evaluation of collaborative platforms' financial value. So my question is how we can ensure to cooperatives 100 years more of life, and how cooperatives and the Coop movement can lead this transition, how to adapt our common identity and our principles to a new 4.0 ecosystems. For our experience as consultants, in this context, there are 3 different clusters of cooperatives. The very large majority of cooperatives seems to have structural difficulties to change and to adapt their business and their organization to the new economic, social, and political ecosystem. So they have a large base, a complex organization, and basically no digital competencies. These are cooperatives that the cooperative movement are trying to save with a solidarity approach, but we know that there are few chances of success. There are some interesting cooperatives that face change prudentially, introducing experimental innovation processes step by step, and waiting some economic results from the market before completely modify their organizational structure. And these are the cooperatives that can survive and grow investing in innovation with an incremental approach. The last cluster is composed by a very little number of cooperatives that undergo disruptive innovation as a key factor of their growth and their evolution in 4.0 cooperatives. So the cooperative movement needs to proactively invest the collaborative economy, and collaborative economy is an opportunity for cooperatives, but also cooperatives are the best opportunity to ensure democratic and sustainable development in a collaborative way. So cooperatives, for example, have to ensure strategic position of cooperative business to benefit from this economic boom. to foster an innovation of cooperative business, especially by encouraging digitalization of services and production, to experiment models allowing to scale up the cooperative economy through the collaborative economy, to develop a sound and sustainable collaborative economy based on our principles and centered on people, on the relationship between people, and on communities' development. So platform cooperativism and open cooperativism are new frontiers, not only for COP movements, but also for our societies and our economies. So the question in this panel is how to build a cooperatives platform movement. I think, in my opinion, the consortium should be an enabling platform itself, and have to inspire and stimulate cooperative movement. It may organize section in close relations with the cooperative existing association. I think a strong added value of platform Coop regarding the Coop movement could be to test innovative models and stimulate the emergence of a new type of Coops. At the same time, existing Coop movements are conducting advocacy activities encompassing the collaborative economy, and this should be better coordinated with open and platform cooperative initiatives. So cooperatives were not born just to let people to do something together. People create cooperatives to co-create solutions for to their own common needs. Then to cooperate it doesn't mean only sharing tools, but means to do something together for shared goals. And I think instead of a competitive collaboration based on weak relationship between peer players, we should promote cooperative collaboration between people, strengthening strong relationships, strong communities, and social cohesion. So thank you very much.
Thanks to everyone on the panel. We've actually overrun a tiny bit, but we've got 2 questions up there, which we can quickly get through. One of them is for Elena, very quickly. Was your research published? If so, where?
It's very easy. It's published on Cooperatives Europe website. So yeah, it's downloadable from there. If you want, maybe later I can share the link.
So yeah, it's on
it's online anyway. It's
Cooperatives Europe website. If you search for Cooperative Europe's collaborative economy, you'll probably find it.